Welcome back to Friends and Enemas. My name's Lindsay. I'm your host. And who do I have with me?
Jared, I'm back again.
He's back again. It's been a moment.
Yeah. You found cooler people for a while, and then you ran out and came back to me. Came crawling back.
At least you can admit it.
You'll always come back.
Okay, that sounded a little creepy. But let's see. What are we talking about today? Do you know?
Finances. Our financial journey.
And
it was our financial odyssey, I would say. There was too many twists and turns just to be a journey. It's a full-on odyssey.
It really is. That's why I wanted to do an episode for you guys, because this has been a long time coming. I think a lot of people, I was doing a few income transparency posts a while back, and I think people just think it happens for us. One day I woke up, I posted a video, and I started making money, and that's just not the case. So I kind of wanted to do a full episode and see if we can get all of our little avenues that we took, starting all the way from the beginning.
Yeah, because I think a lot of people think that you just decided one day you're going to get popular on social media, but it was like a 10-year overnight success.
Right. So, along with doing multiple other things, because again, that was never the goal. So let's start from the beginning, when we were roommates.
Yeah. So it's the format here, you have it kind of broke up into, like, I guess, phases of our lives or phases of our relationship, and what we were doing to make money at the time. If
you guys didn't know, Jared and I were roommates before we were ever dating or married. You can go back and find that episode. I believe it's in season 1 and this season as well. But we started out as roommates. So when we were roommates, initially, right when I had moved in, I had just started working as a secretary for one of the art museums in Stillwater. Did you even know we had that?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I vaguely recall you doing that.
And when I say I started working there, I never actually set foot in there for my job. I ended up quitting before I even started. But I just want to throw that in there because I was once young and dumb as well, and had many instances like this where I was like, no, fuck this shit. I don't want to work here. This is stupid. Mm-hmm. Even though I needed money. That was kind of us, like, throughout this journey.
Yeah, it's a bit of a recurring theme.
I think at that time, you were working 2 jobs. You were working Mexico Joe's back in Stillwater, right when I moved in. Mm-hmm. And you were some type of tech. Do you remember?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I was working at a Mexican restaurant, and then I was working in the endoscopy unit in the hospital. And I was, whenever they go in and do colonoscopies and EGDs, they would, like, nursing would do an initial clean on the scope, and then I would run it through the, like, high tech chemical sterilization, all that stuff.
Do you remember how much money you were making at the time?
Not a lot. I think it floated somewhere around minimum wage. But yeah, I was, like, in my own little room, and there was only, like, it was a 8, 9, 10 hour day, and there was only, like, 4 cases a day, and, like, I got to read books, and
it was, like, pretty chill.
Yeah, it was a nice job to have in college.
And then being a waiter, you're making like $2 an hour plus tips.
Yeah, and it was a college town, so it was very dependent on game days and stuff like that.
So when I moved in, I had a job, but then I was jobless fairly quick. And you had to be 21, correct, to work at Eskimo Joe's as a waitress or a waiter. I think you did.
Maybe because
I vaguely remember that because it wasn't until after my birthday, which was September 26th, that I got that job. I'm pretty sure something along those lines, or I had applied and there was some lag time, but I started working at another restaurant in Stillwater, our college town, called Eskimo Joe's, as a waitress. And he had just moved over from the Mexican restaurant over to Eskimo Joe's as a waiter, and you kind of got me on there.
Yeah.
For the most part. So we were both working there. And overall, like, game days, we would make bank, at least for college students at the time. Like, you could make your rent in a single game day, which was really great.
Yeah, it was like you would work a double, so it was like 10-hour day or 12-hour day, and you could make $300 or $400, which was a ton
of money then.
Yeah, it was a ton of money back then.
It's really not now, but it really was then. And so I'm gonna kind of like zoom through some of these, and some of these we'll talk a little bit more about. But during that time, I was also modeling. So every now and then I'd get like a random modeling gig that would pay us pretty good money. And sometimes they wouldn't, but that was also what I was doing. Were you doing anything else during that time?
Not that I can think of. I think it was just, at that point we were just like college kids. You
figure out life.
Yeah, you wait tables until you can pay for your rent, and then like if you have a good night waiting tables, you go to the bar and you drink most of it.
You just waste it all.
Yeah. You get nowhere, but it's fun. It was a blast. I had such a fun time with all those people.
It was fun. One of my favorite jobs actually was working at Eskimo Joe's. Yeah. Moving on to when we became fiancés, engaged, which was not that long after this. We met in July of 2013. I started working at Eskimo Joe's in September of 2013, and then in early January we up and moved to Oklahoma City. And we kind of had two separate things that happened while we were in Oklahoma City for 3 months. I don't want you to forget we were there for 3 months, not long.
It was just 3 months?
It was 3 months, because I'll never forget the dread we had up and moving all of our shit there.
Didn't we sign a lease?
Yes, but we broke it.
I was really dumb.
We were so dumb. But this is why I want to tell you guys this. Like, we were young, dumb. This was like 10 years ago, 11 years ago.
And we don't even know why we moved. Like, I think that our relationship progressed so fast and people were like, you guys need to chill out. This is weird, And we were like, no, we're going to show you. We're moving to the big city. And we moved 61 miles away to Oklahoma City.
It's so funny because like we really thought we had to show up and show people what we were doing. We moved into a loft apartment. Yeah. And we moved out of there very quick because we were both, again, waiters at the time. We had found waiting jobs. I was still going to school. You had graduated. I think you were trying to figure out if you were going to continue with the MCAT interviews or if you were going to go a different route.
Yeah, I don't recall if I was still pre-med at this point or if I was...
in between.
Yeah, like just... Yeah, I
think
I was somewhere. Yeah, trying to figure out if med school was the right path or not.
Yeah, so this is early 2014. So we are in this loft apartment. We decide to break the lease because we saw on Craigslist there was a gentleman, a paraplegic man, who was looking for help in his house and help just with daily living in exchange for free rent. And we were like, whoa, fuck yeah. We met on Craigslist. What could go wrong? We decide to break our lease because it was like $600. It was like detrimental to us.
Yeah, I think we broke it because it was going to be net positive because we would be living in the city for free, and it was a part of the city that we didn't know much about. It was kind of on the outskirts, but we ended up doing that. Moved over. It was okay. It just it didn't end up working out great.
Right.
But how long were we there?
Well, we were there for almost 3 months because, I think we had just moved into that apartment. We were not in that apartment long, maybe a couple weeks. We moved over into this man's like mother-in-law suite or whatever they're called. Moved there. We were still waiters. I was going to school, and you had ended up quitting your waiting job because...
Oh, yeah. We were waiting tables at Chili's.
Yep. We were waiting tables at Chili's. But you also, in between that time, you'd also got a job as a manager at... what's that restaurant?
It was just like a restaurant group in Oklahoma City. And they... since I had a bachelor's degree at the time, they were taking on managers for their restaurant chain. And I interviewed, got the job.
You made it one shift.
Yeah, I went to my first shift, and at the time I never shaved. I never fully shaved, and this has a point. I would always just get the tightest razor I could and like electric clipper it down. So I get there, and there's this 43-year-old sloppy douchebag that was the boss. And, I my facial hair was fine. It was cut down as far as I could get it. He gave me like a little single blade safety razor and made me go with no shaving cream, no nothing, made me go to the bathroom and shave it all down. So I just hacked my skin apart. So I'm already annoyed. And then the job turns out, they say you're going to be empowering people to blah, 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 and you're going to do this and you're going to be a leader. No, you're just micromanaging the absolute shit out of every employee down to I'm supposed to stand behind them and listen to their spiel about the fish of the day. And then they want me to correct them on, if they use the right phrases and this and that type stuff, and like get onto people that were saying no problem instead of you're welcome. And like, I just,
so not
and
good.
I'm like midway through a quarter life crisis at this point, like trying to figure out what I want to do. And then like, no hate to the service industry. It's just hard. It's a lot of hours. It's difficult work
For not a lot of pay.
Yeah, and
It's not
and
a
it was
ton.
they kind of laid out my life, the next 40 years of my life. They said you'll work, it'll be 60 to 80 hours, and you'll be at this X salary, but if you stay in it for 20, 30 years, you could move up to a manager, and then you could be a regional manager, and you could crack six figures eventually. And I, after that day at work and them laying out, the next 4 decades of my life, I freaked out. Like, I went home. I think it was my first and only panic attack I've had in my life. And I went home to Lindsay, and like, she knew immediately something was wrong. And like, I wasn't even talking.
You couldn't even verbalize what was wrong. You told me, it's not us, it's the job. I need to go for a while. And you went in your truck and you drove away, and you said you sat in the truck and just like had a freak out. Like, this cannot be my life. And again, if that's the life you want, that's fine. But this whole financial journey is also a journey of us finding what we wanted to do.
Yeah, because it wasn't, I just knew that like I was pushed more to the medical field, and I was having doubts about med school, and like, not, to be completely transparent, my GPA was not awesome. My MCAT score was extremely average. So me getting into a school was not like a for sure prospect. So I'm kind of floating around in life, not real sure what I'm doing. And then, you have something here where you can, if you agree to this job and you really buy into this, then that's, that's your life for the next 40 years. And I've never been good with like, commitment and stuff like that. And so
Suffer with me.
yeah. And so, yeah, I freaked out, and, I talked to Lindsay about it. She was like thoroughly freaked out. I think she was kind of like, dude, just do whatever you need to.
Yeah, I was very scared.
This is awful.
Yeah, I was like, who cares? We can wait tables until we figure it out. Like, we both, not that we enjoyed waiting tables. If you're in the service industry, you know exactly what I'm talking about. You're kind of beat up emotionally, everything, but physically, you're pretty beat up all the time. And it's like, damn, but I knew we could get through that to get to the next step. So you went back to waiting tables at Chili's.
Yeah. So I quit that job after the first day, went back to waiting tables at Chili's, and started to reassess what I wanted and what we wanted to do with our lives. I think that was it, because then we ended up quitting at Chili's and moving back.
And the way we quit, we just didn't show up for our shifts. We were so shitty, honestly. But like, if you think back to, we were early, like 20, what were we? 20, I was 21 years old. And I was like, no, fuck this shit. I don't want to do this either, because I'll never forget one of my last shifts there, when I was like, no, I can't fucking do this shit my whole life. Mm-hmm. It was when I had a customer with an awful attitude come in with her son. I set her at the first two top available. She ordered her appetizer, she ordered her entree, told me she didn't want an appetizer, got her drinks out to her. When I brought her drink, she's like, actually, I do want an appetizer. And the way it worked there, I was like, okay, there's no guarantee it's going to come out before your food. Is that okay? And she's like, yeah, absolutely, no problem. It doesn't come out before her entree. It comes out after. And she threw a fit. An adult fit. And I was like, ma'am, there's not a lot I can do for you. She's like, well, I don't even want it now. I want a to-go box. So I went and got a to-go box, and I came back, and she was just being so hateful to me. I remember I tossed this to-go box at her, like just not professionally. I didn't throw it, but I tossed it on the table, like, here. And she was like, oh, let me speak to your manager. I was like, fuck this shit. Like, I am not getting paid enough. She's clearly not going to tip me. I've done nothing wrong. Mm-hmm. And this bitch is going to come in here and act a fool. Yeah. And I think it was her plan all along. And we got that type of customer all the time. And I was like, this is not worth it. This is not worth it. So I think the reason I'm bringing it up is because at the same time, Jared and I were kind of having like an early life crisis where we were I was trying to get through school, but still was not sure what I wanted to do. You had already had a bachelor's degree, trying to figure out what we wanted to do. We're engaged at this point. Mm-hmm. And it doesn't work out with where we're at. So we're like, you know what? Let's move back. This is 3 months. All this happened in 3 months. We move back to Stillwater, in with your parents for about a week. Do you remember this?
Yeah, we briefly, it was more like a stopover with my parents.
Yes,
and then
because we were like, you know what? I was like, I'm going to finish school, God knows what for, back at OSU Stillwater, not OSU OKC. I'm going to go back. I'm going to finish school. We're going to figure things out. So we go stay at your parents for a little bit. We move in with roommates, another couple, move in with them. And so we're back at Stillwater. We're back at waiting tables at Eskimo Joe's when you took a job in sales.
It was AV sales. I sold like home theater units in residences, and we did like these white noise machine installs that went into industrial buildings and stuff like that. It was like I thought I was kind of leaning away from med school at this point and more towards like an entrepreneurial path. And a lot of entrepreneurs start in sales, and I thought I would get some experience in sales. It was a small company, and the guy wanted a salesman for cheap, and so he went for somebody with no sales experience, except he didn't really know how to train somebody and didn't attempt to train me at all. He essentially just gave me this giant book of every individual audio visual part that they have, and he wanted me to read it, and that was going to show me how to it was
he was lame.
Yeah, it was a bit of a disaster. It wasn't a great job. I made a few sales here and there.
I think I'm trying to add in income so that people kind of see how we snowballed things. I think it was around 40 to 50,000 for this job.
Yeah.
I think it was less than the sales manager at the restaurant, but you were a little happier here, so we took the cut.
Yeah, it was like an
Plus
inverse type. There was a base salary that started high, and then as I get more sales or as I get more experience, my commission would go up and my base salary would go down until eventually I'd be working mostly on commission.
You did work on Kevin Durant's house, which was cool.
I did. Yeah, we did Kevin Durant's house and a few other houses in Oklahoma City. But it was, I got a little bit of experience with sales. There wasn't a ton of teaching. I didn't learn as much as I hoped I would. And like, I think he was looking for like this unicorn, like self-starter, and it just wasn't me at the time. I tried to learn it, but I had no clue where to go. I didn't have any experience in sales whatsoever.
And he knew that. So that was like on him. He should have taught you instead of just being like, here you go.
Yeah.
Taught you something.
So we did that for a while. And I think whenever I stopped working there, I decided to go to nursing school, and that's why I quit, right?
Yes. So you were like, you know what? I'm going to apply to nursing schools. But at the same time, we had moved out of the house with those roommates. We were living with your brother in their house. We were roommates with them. And I tell all of this so that people see, like,
Dude, we were a train wreck.
We were a train wreck. We really fucking were.
Yeah, like I never really thought about it because we lived it. But
we bounced around.
Yeah, when you recite it all back, like we were like not very dependable. We were moving around everywhere. We were immature.
We were immature, and that's why I'm bringing all this up. So people, if you're ever in this situation, you are not alone. We had moved out of the house with the roommates because they were, and moved into your brother's house with his wife and their child.
Yeah, that was nice of them too.
It was so nice of them. They let us move in for a very discounted rent. Lived there for a little bit. We eventually had that house to ourselves when they moved out. We had that house for a little bit, and this was all going through, months of school and whatnot. Eventually, we moved out of there. I actually don't think that you had decided to go to nursing school yet. We up and moved over to some of my family's house where it was free rent, but we had, I think she said 3 months to where we have to figure our shit out because we were a train wreck. And during this time, we had applied. We were working at Chewy's as waiters once again.
Yes.
But we had applied to St. John's as nurse techs.
Okay. Yeah.
Catching you up to speed.
Yeah, we started as nurse techs. And
so now we've moved from Stillwater to Tulsa, which is another not big move, really. But in Oklahoma, another move. Living for free. Somewhat, and working at Chewy's, hating our life there.
Mm-hmm.
We started working as nurse tech. Sorry, I think I cut you off. Sorry.
Yeah, we started as nurse techs, and we were Chewy's was mixed in there somewhere. Chewy's didn't end up. It just the money just was not there at this particular Chewy's location.
Did not make shit.
Yeah, we were not making enough for it to be worth it. Started as nurse techs. I think we were both kind of mulling around, and I'd been thinking about travel nursing for a long time. I had stumbled across it. I'd always been interested in medicine. I thought I wanted to do med school, ended up deciding against that. And I did, I applied to med school. I took the MCAT. I had an interview. I was called back for a second interview, and just ended up, the more I shadowed doctors, just nobody had anything good to say about it. And maybe I just caught the wrong 5 doctors, but they all said that it's not what it used to be, and if they did it over, they wouldn't be a doctor. And
if you think back to also something that you didn't realize, your time was very valuable to you, which is why the management job at the restaurant wasn't going to work 80 hours a week for what? Not that much money at the end of the day. Being a doctor, you were going to have to work tons of hours, which eventually the money would work out, but also it wasn't what you were really wanting, but you didn't realize it until later.
Yeah, I think for the longest time, I thought that I just wasn't a good employee, or I was kind of flaky, and I needed to apply myself, and all this different stuff. But I've come to find out later on that I was always a good employee. I showed up on time. I did the stuff. I was respectful, but I hated being told when to show up, what to do, when I can go pee, when I'm allowed to go and eat my lunch and for how long. It just bugged me. And I would never have an attitude about it. I worked as a nurse for 6 years. It's exactly what you do. But I knew it wasn't what I ultimately wanted. And so I think I started at that point formulating a plan, because, you and I we don't come from tons of money or anything like that. And so there was no safety net. We had to create our own safety net, and nursing in my mind was the ultimate safety net for us. It offers a solid lifestyle. It's recession proof, widely available jobs at almost any city in the United States. And so it was extremely dependable source of income that would allow us a foundation to build off of.
Yes. So while we're nurse techs, one of our friends, Katie, she talks to us about becoming nurse. Why don't you guys go to nursing school? Why don't you become a nurse? At that time, I was studying to become a certified personal trainer. Do you remember that?
I do remember that, yeah.
And I took
Tough day.
Tough day. I studied for as long as I could, went and took the test, failed it so hardcore. And I was like, what the fuck am I going to do? What am I going to do with my life? I loved modeling. Modeling's still happening throughout this every now and then. I was like, but I just knew in my gut that I needed a solid financial plan to really carry out modeling, and waiting tables was not going to be it for me. So I was like, fuck. So,
and if you haven't caught on, we're both a little aimless at this point. Yeah. We're just kind of floating around trying to figure out what our lives were about.
So we applied to nursing school. We're both still nurse techs. We applied to nursing school. You get in. I do not, which is another hit to my ego because I just failed that certified personal trainer test. Mm-hmm. You get in though. So you start, I think, that following year.
Oh, you skipped over the Mahogany's wine test as well.
No, I haven't, because I wasn't in nursing school yet.
Oh, that
was right before. So we're getting there, because believe me, I remember that. So Jared gets into nursing school. I do not, but they give me hope because they're like, you know what? All you need to do is pretty much retake one of your classes that I think I got a D in anatomy. No wonder I failed my personal training test. And so I was retaking that. And so I was going back to school I was going back to school. Jared's in school. We're going to the same school. He's going to the nursing school. I'm going to the normal school. And during that time, I had been working I'd picked up a waiting job at Mahogany's, which is like a high-end steakhouse in Tulsa, but I could not be a waitress. I was a water girl because you had to pass this damn wine test. Now, mind you, at the time I didn't really drink, so I don't know shit about folks when it comes to wine. And but while I'm a water girl there, I end up applying to nursing school again. I get in and I'm like, perfect, because a bunch of nurses were working at Mahogany's. They're like, if you can get this job as a waitress, it's going to be cake, because we don't open until 4 p.m. It's like 4 hours you're working and you make a lot of money because it's a high-end steakhouse. And I was like, okay, cool. So no problem. I go study for that. I go to take the test, fail it. So this is the third fail in a short amount of time. And I'm like,
that was a crazy, they
it was
expected
so
like
hard.
somebody walking in to get a waiting job, and they're giving you like, they want you to say like a list of 300 wines. You're supposed to say like what the notes, there's notes of caramel,
It's
and
from this place with
nitrogen in the soil,
this
and
type of grapes.
yeah,
Whispers of cheating. I don't know. I literally don't know. I still don't know stuff like that about wine. I didn't drink wine. So I was like, oh my God. So it was really hard, but I failed. So they're like, you know what? No problem. You can continue being a water girl here. And I was like, no, fuck that shit. I don't make enough money as a water girl. I was so embarrassed. I just felt like the world was out to get me, but really it was me. But at the time I was just like so down on myself. I don't know if you remember that. I was so down on myself.
yeah. I mean, I think that like you weren't entirely sure what you wanted to do, so you kind of half committed to a lot of stuff, but you knew it wasn't your ultimate path, so it was hard to really like get into it.
Yeah. So I still had my nurse tech job, so I was like, that's fine. I'll just do this for now. So I'm doing that. He gets into nursing school. I get in the next year, and as I got in the next year, up on my luck a little bit, I get a patient in the hospital that actually needs help at home. And I was like, oh, okay, that's interesting. His wife offers me the job. It's $25 an hour, which was so much money at the time.
I think
'cause I was making half that as a tech.
Yeah, I think our jobs were 12.
It was $12.50 an hour. So I was like, oh, I'm so doing that. One patient versus however many as a tech. And this was a stroke unit, so it was hard fucking work. I end up somewhat quitting. I go part-time as a nurse tech, but end up quitting that job and going full-time with this patient at his house as I'm in nursing school. So we're in nursing school at this time. You were still a tech at the hospital because you had not met this patient, but you were also a student. I was working in this person's home.
Yeah, and we're driving maybe 30 minutes back and forth 3 days a week to go to nursing school while we're doing all this.
Yeah. I think it was more like 40 minutes, but driving to school. We're married at this time as well. I eventually get Jared on over at this guy's house with me, but it's not as many hours, but that's okay because you were in like your last year or last semester of school. And we were like, that's okay. You don't need to work that much. You need to focus on school so you can pass, get done with it. So you quit your nurse tech job. You come over and work the extra hours at this person's house because there were several of us girls that worked there. Get you over there, and we have the bright idea that if one person needs this, how many people need this? We could totally start a little business called Shelton Caregivers and look for other people who need help in their homes, private care, which we found a couple other clients. And we ended up trying your little entrepreneurial skill set and getting employees that were also in nursing school with us to go when we couldn't go. Well, we can't go during that time, but maybe so-and-so that's a student in our class go for us, and we could pay them a portion of the bill and still take some home. So like that was like kind of our first like start with that. Remember? Yeah.
It was kind of our first introduction into having employees and having payroll and things like that. And
all while we were still students.
Yeah. And it kind of, you know, if you've been listening up to now, we were not super responsible and we were pretty flaky and bouncing around and stuff. And this kind of forced us to, you know, you have to, as flaky as we were, we both cared about patients and we cared about these people that we had as clients and patients. And so, you know, there's no like, I don't feel like it today, so I can't do it. It was like, you're showing up. It's
or no one will be there.
Yeah.
And actually, I don't think we ever called in. I do not, if we did, it was legit because I do not remember letting them down.
And I think it's whenever it becomes your baby, you know, that it's your business, it feels a lot different. You know, it's, you feel like you have more stock in it and you have a bit more autonomy.
Yeah. So after you graduate, we're both still taking care of this person, but I'm still in school. And you start looking at creating an online boutique. called Boho and Co.
Yeah. I wanted to get into, I wanted to learn about digital marketing, and I wanted to learn about online sales and sales funnels and things like that. And like, you can watch all the YouTube in the world, but there's no real school as good as just like doing it. Yeah. Some boots on the ground type stuff. And so,
but you wanted that because of the Shelton caregivers, we realized how employees can be extremely flaky, because even our people that we would hire would not show up to these jobs. And we were like, oh my God.
Yeah. That became one of the major things that I wanted, like as a hopeful entrepreneur, is I wanted to be able to utilize the internet to not have employees, or have as few employees as possible, just because it's, it just adds more complexity to it. To create like a massive business, obviously you need employees, you need people helping you out. But starting out, there was already enough headaches just trying to figure all this out. So I wanted something that didn't require anybody else, and I could kind of run it on my own.
And when you started Boho & Co., you did get quite a few sales. And it was just these, like, what you think of when you hear Boho & Co., a little bit of jewelry, some dresses. It was all stuff you found online. Can you explain it a little bit?
Yeah, it was a shop spun up on Shopify, and it was a drop shipping business model. And this was like early on, before it got like disgustingly scammy and horrible, and that's part of why I shut the shop down, because it was just terrible. But early on, it was incredible. Like, they place the order, and then you place an order directly from the factory, and it goes directly from the factory to the consumer. You didn't have to inventory anything, you didn't have to warehouse, nothing like that. But there were some long shipping times and things like that you had to be honest about on the website. And that's where it got scammy, because people wouldn't put that. They would act like it was a regular website with warehousing in the United States, whenever that was not the case. And a lot of these people didn't vet the quality of their products. And so there was a right way to do it and a wrong way to do it. And whenever it started to get real scammy, and people became a little bit disenchanted with those types of websites, I just kind of shut that down and moved on to the next thing.
But it was a learning opportunity.
Absolutely. I learned a ton of stuff. Yeah, it was great.
While you were doing that, I was like, I want to contribute, because I think at this point I was still in school, but I'd cut my hours. Oh, I think actually our main patient had passed away. So I think that it cut hours, it cut our pay. And I was like...
Yeah, he was... our patient was on hospice, but projected to live quite a while, and had passed away pretty suddenly.
Yeah. And we had a couple other patients as well that had passed away as well. So I was like, you know what? I just got this Cricut for my birthday. I'm going to make designs on wine glasses and things like that, like all the crafty stuff that was really popular at the time. Mm-hmm. And I opened up a little dog-themed Etsy shop called Harlequin Clothing Co., I think. And I was like, I'm going to do this to contribute. And I did that for like months. Yeah. And then when we finally ran the, not the budget, the
P&L,
we realized I was making pennies for this work.
Yeah. And I still think it was a net positive, because you were learning how to get sales and how to fulfill orders and kind of how the machine works. But yeah, once we ran the P&L, an accurate P&L.
I said P&L. What's it stand for?
P&L, profit and loss.
There you go.
Whenever we ran that on your site, yeah, it was flat, or
it was pennies. I was making pennies, and I was so upset because I was sure that I was making money.
You were working your butt off.
I was working my ass off.
Which is a good lesson, because like, it feels like you're making a lot of sales, and you don't really think about it whenever you buy the product in the inventory, and you buy the vinyl, and you do all the stuff, and whenever you actually run the numbers on it, yeah, it might not be as lucrative as you might have thought.
Yeah, so I ended up putting that aside, and at that same time, I think I was still in school. I was almost done, but I saw, or maybe I wasn't almost done, sometime through school, I saw a news report about this woman who paid for her law school by donating her eggs. And I was like, wow, that's crazy. I want to do it. Please pay for my school. I'm broke as fuck.
Yeah.
I have eggs. Take mine. So I go sign up. This is a huge, long process. If you reach out to me about this, because people always do, I will just tell you to Google your state and donating eggs, because everywhere is different. So I end up signing up. I do get picked to donate eggs. I'm ecstatic because we get $5,000 for the first set. And I was like, hell yeah, take my eggs.
It was like a unheard of amount of money at the time.
Oh my gosh, it was so much money. It was so much money, and we needed it. We needed it so bad. So I ended up donating my eggs a total of 3 times throughout nursing school. I made $5,000, $8,000, $10,000. Should have made way more, let me tell you that, because the shit you go through with donating eggs, the drugs that you put into your body, and then the immense amount of pain that you go through afterwards, the bloating, it's not just regular bloating. Like I gained 7 pounds of water weight over a day.
Yeah.
It hurt.
I think looking back, maybe not super worth it.
If I could go back and not do it, I would. I would. I'm not. It's hard. It's not like I regret it, but also I didn't understand it enough as a young adult to understand possible things that could happen afterwards.
Right.
But we were so desperate at the time. I needed it. We needed it, and I was like, "Fuck, take my eggs. Take my eggs. Pay me, please." But I only did it 3 times. I was still doing some modeling jobs. And at this point, you are a nurse. I believe I have now graduated when you had been watching like sales funnels and how to sell a product on Amazon.
Yeah. So the sales funnels was, it was almost like a MLM type thing that I got sucked into.
MLM
and I didn't,
for men.
Yeah, I didn't do it super long, but the sales funnel is that is a real thing in sales. But this particular company, it was, it wasn't something that I chased down a lot. But then I came across Amazon FBA, which is fulfilled by Amazon, and essentially you can create your own product and you can put it on Amazon storefront. I'm sure you've all probably bought an Amazon FBA product. And Amazon will warehouse it in their warehouses, and they'll do all the shipping, they'll handle returns, they do everything, and they take a pretty healthy cut of it because they're giving you their whatever 100 million eyeballs every day. They're handling all of your fulfillment, and so that they take 40% or something like that. So you need pretty healthy margins on it. But I got into that and ran that for 5 years. I mean, it's still running. It's kind of autopiloted at this point, but that ended up being, that got us through.
One of the best things you did for us.
Yeah, that paid a lot of bills, and it was really stressful, and it's kind of like the first gut check that I had, because before, all the other businesses you could spin up for almost no money, but this one required you to purchase inventory and have it shipped over, and there's 60-day lead time, and so we didn't have any money at the time, but I really I researched a ton, and I spent months, 6 months maybe, researching the best products and then designing a product that I thought would do well, and refining the product and market testing the product. And whenever I finally felt like I had it all down, I talked to Lindsay about it, and it was going to require us to put $5,000 on a credit card, which is a massive amount of money at the time. Still a lot of money.
It's still a lot of money, but at the time it was even more, I feel like.
Yeah, and throwing it on a credit card, knowing that we were just going to eat that interest for months and months. And I talked to her about it, and to your credit, you were on board. You didn't flinch.
I didn't flinch. I was like, if there's one thing about Jared you guys need to know, is he's going to research it. I trust you with it. I was like, you're the one that's done the work for that part. I have not. Yeah. And if this is what you think is going to get us to the next level, do it. And so you did. You charged our credit card $5,000, which was so scary at the time, because we could barely make ends meet as two full-time bedside nurses making $27.50 an hour plus a few differentials every now and then. Yeah. That is not a lot of money. And even for 2 people without children, we didn't have children, but we aspired for more things beyond paying our rent and paying our groceries. And so you put it on a credit card, started it up, and it was making. Yeah,
it was profitable month 1. I think we got the initial credit card paid off in the first 4 or 5 months. And from then on, we built up a little bit of capital where we could cover our inventory costs. And once we got everything kind of lined out, I mean, it made good money. It paid a bunch of our bills. It paid our mortgage. It ended up being really great for us. And so we still run that, but that was kind of the first like big scary leap that we took, the first of many.
Yeah. I didn't write this down, but you reminded me, I did a lot of MLMs over these years too. When you said that, I was like, oh.
Yeah, this doesn't even include all the various MLMs that we got sucked into.
Oh my gosh. And talk about, like, I know some people make it on there, but I was not one of those girls. I was a very desperate girl, desperate to make money, to not feel so fucking stressed all the time. So I got into Young Living, Rodan and Fields. There's a nail one, so many of them. And I just look back, I'm like, girl, fucking quit.
Well, the MLMs, their lifeblood is
desperate women.
Survivorship bias. You know, it's you point at these three people that happen to be at the top and happen to be very well connected, and like, look at them, they're making millions of dollars a month. Well, that's because they got in at the beginning. Everybody that gets in at the beginning makes good money. It's the tens of thousands that get in after them that just get sucked dry and spit out.
Yeah,
so
and
we're one of them.
Hot take, not my thing. I'm very against it at this point in my life. But Lindsay then had no fucking clue, and I was trying so hard just to bring in some money for us and do my part. So we have Amazon FBA going at this time. I'm doing modeling still. This is also when your Amazon product was taking off. And I was like, you know what? I want to try to bring something into this family, like more than just my nursing paycheck. So I tried starting a business called For Your Event. You remember that? Mm-hmm. I never did anything with it, but I was like, if we had stayed where we were, I would have done something with it. But at this time, we're also talking about travel nursing. So I made a website. I was really excited to start bringing people's pets to their events, like their weddings, their birthdays, et cetera, et cetera. And so I started that and was trying to keep Shelton caregivers alive as well. When we decided that we were going to start travel nursing. We did that. I mean, you had already talked about it, but once you got the experience, you're like, no, we got to get out of here.
Yeah, because I another thing that I had always wanted and dreamed of was traveling, and we never had really any money, and so this was a way to work and make money, have reliable income, and travel the United States. Like it was like best of both worlds.
Yeah.
I knew I wanted to do travel nursing before we even went to nursing school. It was kind of in the grand plan. But I got my 2 years in, and we would have waited. I would have got 3 years. You would have got 2 years. But this was March of 2020 and the pandemic hit.
Yes.
And so this was kind of we had planned on, we had bought the RV. We had done all the prep work. We were ready to go. We were looking out at places in California, and then that first case of COVID hits, and the second and third, and and everything,
and it got scary.
Yeah, and I remember we went back and forth, and we were like, we don't know what this is. We don't know what's going to happen. Should we stay near family until we know what's going on? And ultimately, we decided, let's just go. We're going to go to California.
Well, we talked to our manager, and she said, you guys can always come back.
Yeah.
And that's where we were like, okay. We have this safety net. We were so worried about a safety net, and we had it.
Yeah, and it was she kind of gave us an open door policy, which was nice. And then I think travel nursing and beyond, everybody kind of knows that part a lot better.
Yeah.
But we went out. First contract was in Pismo Beach. Our pay, and this was one of those things. Like it was this big scary thing, and the pay from our staff job to this job in California that I was being offered was so much higher. It was almost 5x what I was making. So I was like, this job's fake. This is not a real job.
We so thought it was a scam.
Yeah. And so we did all the stuff. We had the RV, we packed it up, we paid somebody to haul it out there, and we just went to California knowing there was about a 50% chance that this job didn't exist. And we were just going to have to put a bunch of money on a credit card and get home and try to figure things out. So it was scary. It was really scary.
And at the time, I had just had surgery, so I couldn't work for a few months. So on top of that, we were having if this isn't real and I can't work either, what are we going to do? We're going to drive all the way fucking back. But we still knew we could always go live, because we were also selling our house at the time.
Yeah.
we could always go live with family. There was always for us something that we could fall back on at the time.
Yeah, and I think a big thing that we've always done that's kind of given us a little bit more courage to take the leap is, everybody talks about goal setting, but there's also fear setting. And it's an exercise where you spell out in great detail the worst case scenario. So, we go to California, the job doesn't exist, we get beat up and somebody takes our wallet and, everything goes wrong. Well, if everything goes wrong, we get hit on our credit card, it's going to stink. We had a little bit of savings, enough to get us back. And ultimately we go all the way back. We sell the RV at a loss, or we live in the damn thing at this point. And we go back to working as nurses where we worked before. Nobody dies, nothing horrible happens. It stinks. It sets us back a few months on our debt payments, but we're alive. So there was massive upside potential, and there was reasonable downside potential. And I think if you make that analysis on things, it doesn't make it this big, scary, nebulous thing that feels like everything could go wrong.
Right. And we know everyone's situation's different. Everyone has different privileges, and we definitely had family to lean on at the time that we could come back and live with. It'd be a pain in the ass, but we had that, or the RV, or something to fall back on. I know that not everyone has that, but we're just letting you know how we did it.
Yeah. Yeah. So we went, and the job was real, thankfully. Yeah. It worked out. Travel nursing was incredible. It was life-changing for us.
It was the best thing we ever did with our lives so far. It was the best thing because so many people tried to get us to stay. A lot of family, just because didn't want us to leave. But especially during the pandemic, so many people tried to get us to stay there and change our minds. And a
lot of people were telling me that there's just no way that the job is real.
Yeah.
Because I showed them, they knew what we were making now. I showed them what this offer was, and they were like, yeah, that's not real. Like,
you're stupid.
Yeah.
You're stupid. Don't do it. And we were like, well, we're still going to try it. Other people are saying it's real online. We're just going to try it.
I'd been researching it for 2 years. Like I knew it, and it looked ridiculous because COVID spiked the pay up. And so it looked outrageous.
Yeah.
But the travel nursing has been around for a long time.
Right.
And not a lot of people, and that was the thing, like it's been around for a long time, but not a lot of people know about it, or they didn't before. It really kind of came into the limelight during COVID.
Yeah. So I start working, I think I couldn't work when you first started, which was April, but I start working in June, and we are up in Pismo Beach, and I'm driving to Los Angeles, which is I think a hefty drive, if not maybe
a couple hours.
I thought it was like 4 hours. I don't remember, but it was a drive. So I was driving there. We move around a ton. We end up travel nursing for 4 years, 2020 to 2024, all through California and Kansas. Those are the places that we travel nursed. And we took breaks in between and whatnot. But at the time I was still trying to get modeling to happen, but that just wasn't working for me personally because, they wanted me to lose weight and I didn't want to. Well, it was an unhealthy amount of weight they wanted me to lose. And I was like, this is kind of fucking with me. I'm not sure how much skinnier I can get for these people. And so I ended up kind of cutting that out. And I was pretty down at the time because I'd always wanted to be a model. And realizing that it wasn't going to happen for me the way I wanted it to. I was like, you know what? I'm on TikTok now. I'm seeing a lot of people post some funny stuff. Like, I bet I could make something funny out of nursing. Like, there's a bunch of funny stuff on here. There's some creators on there already, but I wanted to try it out. So I started in December 2021, just posting silly videos. And they took off. And I've created the platform I have today and started making money on it just last year, the beginning of 2023.
Like November 2023.
Yes. On my social media. However, in 2022, the whole year 2022, I was doing something called UGC content, which is user generated content, where I create ads essentially for brands that they can use those videos on their page. I was a freelancer. I was on Fiverr. I was on Upwork, and I worked for an agency called Social Savannah. So I was doing that whole year, kind of learning how to create content and what it looks like to make an ad and all these things, and kind of transforming my modeling into kind of acting, like commercial acting. And that's when I started doing or making money on UGC content 2022. And then 2023, I was like, you know what? I was approached by, I believe a scrub company to create an ad. And I was like, oh my God, they want to pay me? They want to pay me to make something that stays on my page? Like, that's so exciting. And I think it was something like $100. I don't think it was much at all, but I took it and was so excited. And from there snowballed into, wait a second, people make money on social media? Mm-hmm. Wait a second, how much money are people making on social media? And you start looking, and there's not a lot of transparency. In the end of last year, I decided to make a post about how much I made 1 month. Doesn't mean I make that every month. But I made $30,000 1 month. Mm-hmm. Just with our social media, not including the travel nursing contract that we had and our Amazon FBA that we had. I think those were the only things we were doing at the time.
Yeah, it was, and that kind of, if you look back now that you've heard all the stuff that we did, whenever you just take swings, shots on goal, you just keep trying something, you'll hit a single. And then, maybe something goes crazy, you hit a double, and you keep those streams and you kind of collect them as you go through life. And then, down the road, you look back and it's been 5-10 years and you've got some reliable income coming in from multiple sources where it can't be just taken away from you in one fell swoop.
And all these things, like I wanted to bring them all up because we learned something from all these things. Waiting tables, customer service, because if you're a nurse, you're practically a waitress, and that's a running joke.
That made me a way better nurse.
Way better nurse, because customer service skills.
You learn to deal with conflict, and that's the main thing that I see some nurses lacking is you have to be able to do your job and handle conflict at the same time. And waiting tables is perfect for that.
Yes. And then moving on to your sales job, that even though you hated it, it did teach you what sales is like, a little bit of it. Yeah. And you transform that into the Boho and Co. And then you're like, well, this isn't exactly what I want, but you transformed that into Amazon FBA. And that got us by. That got us by for quite some time. And there's all these little things, like, yes, there were failures along the way. My Etsy shop, I wasn't really making any money. I was making pennies, if anything, yet we moved on to the next thing. We just moved on to the next thing until it started working.
Yeah. Well, I was going to say, I think the biggest thing with that particular thing is that it was hard work. Like, you have to press all the shirts and you got to pack the shirts. It took me
hours.
And there was a point you were getting 30, 40, 50 sales a day. And like, you have to go in there and you have to spend 2 hours packing the shirts, even though it's like the last thing on earth you want to do. You just got back from work.
Yeah.
You work 12 hours and you got to go pack shirts for 2 hours. And, that alone was a lesson on how to persevere and how to stick with something. And I think that a big thing what's been the most enjoyable for me was watching you feel like you were failing at modeling and never really, you couldn't kind of sell your soul and do modeling the way you're supposed to, because they want you to essentially like turn your brain off. We're going to tell you how terrible you are. You're going to look exactly how we say, and we're going to fly you all these places, and you're just going to do kind of what we want you to. Yeah. And you were never, being told what to do and when to do it and being put down all the time was not your cup of tea. And for the longest time, you felt like you were failing at it. But whenever social media came around, I could tell from your first post that like you had presence, and that's not something that a lot of people can do. And seeing how much presence you had, especially whenever you started doing commercials for people, I don't think it ever clicked with you that you were modeling. Yeah. And I remember we had a talk one day, and I was like, Lindsay, this is modeling on your own terms. Like you have done it. You're there. All you have to do is say, I'm doing it. I'm doing it. Yes. Say the magic words that I'm doing it, and you're doing it. Like, and I think once you internalize that, it all kind of clicked for you, and you realize that you could call the shots and you could model on your own terms. Yeah. I mean, that's all. Modeling is just representing a brand and making people want to buy the brand. Yeah. And that's exactly what you do now.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah, it's very true. I mean, modeling was always my end game. That's why I was bouncing from job to job, from major to major, not really knowing what I wanted to do, floating around. And when nursing came up, I'll be honest, I'm the first to tell everyone, it was never what I wanted to do from the beginning. I always said it's my plan B. It's a great it's great for financial stability and the schedule. I'm working 3 days a week if I'm full time. And then I have 4 days off to chase my fucking dreams. And that's what I wanted from nursing. I always say the easiest part of nursing is caring for somebody. That's the easiest part. That's never been an issue for me. It's all of the politics, the environment, the toxicity that can come with nursing, that I was like, you know what? That's why I created my page. It's because I wanted to create an outlet for people and like connect with certain people that think the same way as I do and can laugh at stupid shit that we have to deal with.
Yeah.
But you're right. I mean, I did kind of make it into, that is modeling for me. I'm being a model of some sort.
Yeah. Yeah. And another thing I don't think we mentioned is that, like, I think the more that you put yourself out there, the more luck finds you. And it does take a little bit of luck. And, we didn't mention all of it. This is kind of coming back to me as we talk, but we had help along the way. Yeah. Like, my parents lent us a car. Yeah. Whenever I sold my car to buy Lindsay's wedding ring for some reason, like, what are we even doing?
Going back to, like, we were young, dumb, and we were quick. Like, we were quick to make decisions. Snap judgments. Yeah, you sold your car to buy me a fucking ring, and then while we shared my car until your parents let us use their truck. I had family that helped us out tremendously.
Yeah, we had some of your family that set us up with a rent-to-own type situation for our first home, which helped us immensely.
Yes, and so we're not going to tell you, like, we didn't have help or we're not privileged, because we are. Yeah. Very, very, very much so. But we still had struggles. Nobody paid our bills. We always had to do that ourselves. And nobody gave us a trust fund of any kind. That was our big thing as we were growing in our marriage. Of what we were scared about was what's going to happen. Also, there was a few things. What's going to happen if we lose our jobs? We don't have a savings account at the time. Before travel nursing, we didn't have any kind of savings. And also, who's going to come save us? Yeah. Who's going to save us from this shit? Nobody. Yeah. We realized that very quickly. Financially, no one was coming to save us. It had to be you and me. Yeah. It's a huge reason why we decided to not have kids. It's a huge reason why we said, even though family is going to be sad that we're leaving, we're still going to leave, because, again, nobody's coming to save us but you and me.
And I think there was a fair amount of us refusing to accept our current situation. And, we would level up our situation, and then we would immediately start, how can we level up again? How can we do a little bit better? And like, whenever we got our nursing jobs, that was this long, that's the end point. That's for a lot of people, you get your nursing job and you've done it. You've got your career. But we did that, and then we started looking, just because of decisions that we made in the past, mostly me. I had a lot of student loans, and we looked at our collective nursing salary, and we looked at our bills, and we looked at what we could put towards debt, and we were looking at 7 to 10 years to pay it all off.
Yeah. It was $136,000 of debt combined.
Yeah, and then we started looking. Well, I can't accept that. That's not enough. So how can we get this done quicker? And that's whenever we looked at travel nursing, and we took this big scary leap over to travel nursing, and then travel nursing worked out. And instead of 7 to 10 years, we paid it all off in 7 months. Yeah. And so, there's a lot of things that could have gone wrong, some stuff that did go wrong, a lot of scary leaps. And, I think that's just kind of how it looks.
Well, and going back on you for a second, I think I had settled into that's just what happens. You get debt and it takes 10 years to pay it off. And you were like, I do not accept that. That's not going to happen for us. Like, you wanted better for us. And you put us out there. You opened my mind to being more open-minded about, well, we could leave here. And we could live in an RV. We could live smaller to make more money. Is don't get it twisted. We put 90% of our income. We did the math on it when we were paying off our debt. We put 90% of our income towards debt so that we could live in the RV. It was very cheap. It was like $900 to $1,500 a month what we were paying for rent, essentially.
In California.
And then 90% of our income went towards debt for 7 months.
Yeah.
That's a lot. We weren't doing shit.
Yeah. And it was
during those 7 months.
And that's, if there's anywhere that we're going to pat ourselves on the back, I am proud of us that we were able to, generally, if your income 4X's, 5X's, 6X's in some cases, some of our contracts,
yeah,
a lot of time your lifestyle will creep and your lifestyle will inflate to fill out your new paycheck. And we were very cognizant of that. And we, just had our bare minimum. We still went out and we did fun stuff. We just did free stuff. We were in California. We were living like 6 minutes from the beach.
Yeah.
We did as much cool free stuff as we could.
Yeah.
And we just dumped every single penny into our debt because I didn't want any debt. I spent the first several years of our marriage thinking about money every single day.
You're sick of it.
Yeah. And I was tired of worrying about money. And so we paid off all of our debts, nothing breathing down our necks. And that was so big for us. And I think our relationship and our financial journey.
It was so big for us that when we paid it off, we were like, whew, okay, well, what's next?
Yeah. What do we do now?
We didn't even know how to celebrate it. We were just like, okay, well, we did it.
Yeah.
Shouldn't we feel a little better about this? But it was just such a cycle of, okay, all this goes to debt, all this goes to debt. When we really got to congratulate ourselves was when we decided to, okay, well, let's take a trip now. Yeah. Now we can actually go do something. And we did 3 trips that next year because we were just like, fuck this shit, let's do it. That was our income creep the next year. But it was for trips, it was for experiences. And I don't know, I just wanted to tell you guys this. And back to my social media, it's not like that happened overnight either. Before I started Scrub Hacks, I had a fitness account because remember, I wanted to be a certified personal trainer. And then before that, I had my modeling account and I had a lifestyle account. I had all these things over 10 years, I would say, trying and just hoping maybe I'll get big on social media. Maybe something will come from it. And then when I switched to the funniest thing is something I never dreamed of doing, of nursing. Mm-hmm. And then I decided to do content on that. That's what blew up.
Yeah.
And that's what I resonated with the most. And other people did too. And I don't know, I'm just trying to tell you, just because something doesn't work out doesn't mean it's not meant for you. Just because you quote unquote fail out in one aspect doesn't mean you're going to continue failing. I mean, I failed multiple times. That's why I told you guys about it. I failed tests in nursing school. I didn't even get into nursing school the first time, but me and Jared just kept going and being resilient, really. And just no, don't accept this. What's next? Let me try it again. Even though it was embarrassing to friends and family that would hear about all of our failures. And I feel like we were kind of the black sheep at first. What the fuck are those two doing? What the fuck are those two doing?
And now that we recount all of our adventures, that's,
what the fuck were we doing?
Yeah, that was totally understandable at this point. But, I think that it's allowed us, a lot of success is just hearing no over and over and failing. And I know this is a cliche and I know it sounds cheesy, but how many times can you hear no? How many times can you fail? How many times can you get knocked down financially and get back up? And it really is just doing it over and over until something hits. And then you say, okay, I've got this set, and you take care of that thing and you start to build a new thing. And that's, we've kind of leveled those up throughout the years. And then our latest project, Scrubstr, our mobile app, we're able to go from more of a simple idea to a much more complex idea, something that I'd kind of been dreaming about, but I was like, oh no, that's, it's all way too much. And here we are now, we were able to dump, tens of thousands of dollars into developing a quality product. And it's super exciting.
It is super exciting. If you guys don't know, we do have an active app right now called Scrubstr. It is your anonymous way to rate and review hospitals and agencies you've worked for as a nurse right now. But we are working on opening it up to all healthcare professionals, including staff. It's the Rate My Professor of hospital world.
Yeah,
and it's gonna be a game changer.
We're getting some transparency. We're waging war on nursing turnover.
Yeah,
we're gonna figure out why it's happening. We're gonna figure out how to fix it.
Yes.
And this app is the first step of many to getting to that conclusion.
Yeah. Well, looking at our list, I think we hit it all. That's all she wrote.
Oh, my OnlyFans. We didn't.
Oh, yeah. He sells his butthole online. Just kidding, guys. But if you want him to, let us know. I don't know. I think, no.
It's all good.
All right. Your mom might be watching too. So just kidding. I don't know, guys. If you have any other questions or suggestions for future episodes with Jared and me, let us know, because we're definitely more than happy to do it. Transparency is kind of the name of the game here. So yeah, it was fun.
Yeah.
It was a lot of words. I'm thirsty.
Yeah. It was fun walking down memory lane.
It was a little hard, actually. Thinking back, I was like, oh, Jesus.
Shit show, for sure.
Welcome
we made
to
it. We're here.
Show.
This is just what it looks like. You know,
it is. It's what our life.
Nobody has it figured out. Nobody knows what they're doing. Even if they act like they do, I promise they don't.
Exactly. Well, until next time, guys, thanks for listening. Don't forget to go check out my Patreon. We're having some juicy bits over there of random shit that we talk about, some funny stuff. Don't forget to follow me online at Scrubhacks. And thanks for listening.
Yeah, thanks,
Bye.
guys.